What is up, fight fans? Welcome back to my Nightmare Matchup series where I talk about nightmare matchups for champions in every division. And now I am on part 2 in my 2023 edition. I did my 2022 one not too long ago, last November. But here we are, just 4 months in, and we already have 5 new champions. It's too tempting to not do another one so soon. And obviously, for those of you who are new, I basically break down each contender who is a potential stylistic problem for the champion in each weight class, and I list their danger levels up against the champion, giving how much of a chance they may have at potentially dethroning the champion. And depending on the weight class, some champions, if they're unlucky, may have more than just one contestant. And of course, I'm gonna start in order. I'm gonna start with the women's strawweight division. As you all know, the women's strawweight champion is still Magnum Zhang Weili, the 2-time strawweight champion who regained her title last November with a dominant performance over Carla Esparza, where she submitted her in the second round. Zhang Weili is an absolute beast. She's athletically gifted, super strong, very powerful, but well-rounded, amazing striker, super explosive, but also amazing ground game, and she can wrestle. And she's a league ahead of a lot of the strawweights, you know? Like, she barely has enough competition that I believe that could challenge her. However, last November, I did have one nightmare matchup for her, but now with the return of another fighter who's been out for a while, but now is back and is returning to the strawweight division, she now has one more problem to worry about. And that is Tatiana Suarez. She's back in the mix. She made her return in the flyweight division, but now she is coming back to strawweight, and she, I believe, is going to pick up where she left off. She is an absolute problem in the division, and that's due to her high-level wrestling. She is the best wrestler in the strawweight division and across all women's MMA. People thought Carla was the best wrestler in the division, but that's only because Tatiana Suarez was MIA for a few years. But it's Tatiana Suarez's wrestling that I believe no one, and I mean no one, can go up against. Not even someone as complete as Zhang Weili, who is able to have wrestling success with Carla engaging in the wrestling. That's not going to happen against someone with Tatiana Suarez, with someone who chain wrestles like Tatiana, with someone whose takedowns are extremely hard to stop. And not only that, once she gets on top of you, more chances than not, you're more likely to not get back to your feet, because her top control is something else. And Zhang Weili has in the past struggled with not only take down the fence, but returning back to her feet. Rose Namajunas was able to take her down a couple of times, and when she did get on top of Zhang Weili, Zhang was unable to get back to her feet. And that is very concerning against a wrestler like Tatiana Suarez, someone of her caliber. Because if Rose Namajunas can keep you down, why can't someone like Tatiana Suarez do the same thing, but worse? Because with Tatiana, her top control is better than Rose, and she'll do more on the ground than just hold position. She will do damage with ground and pound. She'll advance position, more dominant positions, and look for submissions on top, which is something that Weili would really have to look out for. The only way for Zhang Weili to win this fight, she's limited to one option, and that is only to use her striking. If she can negate the wrestling of Tatiana Suarez, but that is a big if. We're just going to have to find out when these two fight. But Weili would have to be really careful. She likes to inside fight a lot, but against someone like Suarez, you're going to want to keep that range and not let her get close, because then you'll end up in a very sticky situation. Tatiana is undefeated for a reason, and she is without a doubt a threat to the throne of Zhang Weili, and the level of danger that Tatiana brings to this table. To the table in this matchup against Zhang Weili is a solid 7 out of 10, meaning the chances of Tatiana Suarez taking the belt from Weili are very high. You know, if she can successfully work her way back to the top and earn a title shot against the current champion Zhang Weili, she's definitely a threat. And next up, we move on to the women's flyweight division, and your new UFC women's flyweight champion is Alexa Grasso. That's right, she broke through this past month, shocking the world, pulling the upset on Valentina Bullet Shevchenko, where she won by 4th round rear naked choke to win the belt and end the long reign of Valentina. Alexa Grasso is truly coming into her own. She is evolving, entering in her prime. Very good boxer, one of the best boxers in women's MMA, and best hands in the flyweight division as well. Not many people can stand with her, and she's got ever evolving jiu-jitsu skills as well. However, this top 5 is very competitive, and there's quite a few grapplers as well, which is a bit of a concern because how that Shevchenko fight was playing out, Valentina was having a lot of success with her takedowns and control, and she's not even the best grappler in the division. Like, could you imagine if she was up against one of the better grapplers? And someone does come to mind who does worry me for Alexa if she does end up getting a title shot, and that woman is Erin Blanchfield. It's not so much her offensive wrestling that worries me or her ability to take people down and control them that scares me. The thing is with Erin Blanchfield is once she gets women on the ground, she has an ability to end it right then and there. The moment she gets on top of you, she's quick to get you in the worst position and latch up a sub, and it's game over. She most definitely has the takedown threat on Alexa Grasso. She can 100% get her down, and once she does get Grasso down, Grasso would be in a lot of trouble. Alexa Grasso has been submitted before, and if Alexa Grasso makes any mistakes on the ground, Erin Blanchfield most definitely will be quick to capitalize. She is an opportunist. The moment she sees a chance to get a submission, she will, even if they're not on the ground. From the clinch, she can even get a standing guillotine. Erin is just that dangerous with her jiu-jitsu. So Alexa Grasso has to keep this fight on the feet by any means possible, because pretty much all Blanchfield needs is just one takedown and it could be game over. Alexa Grasso could find herself on the receiving end of a quick submission and kissing that belt goodbye. And the level of danger that Erin cold-blooded Blanchfield brings to this matchup against the champion is a 7.5 out of 10. And the second runner-up on this list is Taila Santos. I was a little bit conflicted at first on who to have higher on this list between Erin and Santos, but I chose Erin at number 1 due to her ability to finish the fight once she gets it on the ground, whereas Santos, she has the takedown threat, but she's not as quick to get a finish once she does get you down. You can survive on the ground with her. However, Taila Santos is very physically strong, big for the weight class. I think she's stronger than Alexa Grasso. And if she does take down Alexa Grasso, Alexa would have a very hard time getting back up. And I can see Taila Santos implementing a very similar game plan she did against Valentina Shevchenko. And remember, she was out wrestling Valentina for like the first 3 rounds, who out wrestled Alexa Grasso. And if Valentina could have success out wrestling Alexa, imagine what Taila Santos could do. And the longer they're on the ground, the longer they're in these grappling situations, eventually Taila Santos could work her way into a submission. Remember, she is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This would definitely be one of Alexa Grasso's hardest matchups if they ever fought. And the third runner-up is going to be Valentina Shevchenko, Alexa Grasso's previous and her next opponent. Yes, there will be a rematch, 100%. Valentina Shevchenko is one of the only fighters in this division who can compete with Alexa Grasso on the feet. Even though Grasso overall has the boxing advantage in terms of a wider arsenal, Valentina Shevchenko has that. She's got better, more effective kicks than Alexa Grasso. She's more well-rounded than Alexa Grasso and has a better ability to mix it up against Alexa Grasso between her striking and her takedowns. We already know she can take down Alexa Grasso. She took her down a bunch of times. That's how she was winning the fight in their first fight. And Valentina Shevchenko is very good at adapting and adjusting between fights, figuring out her opponents. And we know a former champ of her caliber is going to look to make the adjustments to regain her title back from Alexa Grasso. And now she's going to be driven by revenge, which is going to make her even more dangerous going forward in this rematch. Now, moving forward into the women's bantamweight division, the women's bantamweight champion is Amanda the Lioness Nunes. For the last 7 years, she's been the ruler of this weight class, two-time champion. Only one person has been able to end it all for her on one night, but was unable to sustain it, keep the belt from her in the rematch. That was Juliana Pena, and that shows that Amanda Nunes has still got it. You know, Amanda Nunes, she's still in her prime, she's still hungry, and for someone who's been on top for so long with the mileage that she has, she's still getting better, still improving, as we saw in that last fight with Juliana Pena. But with that being said, the nightmare matchup remains the same, and it's still gonna be Irene Aldana. Irene Aldana is a threat to Amanda Nunes. I believe she's one of the very few women in this division who can take Amanda Nunes on the feet. She's got the boxing to deal with Nunes. She's got some of the best boxing, I believe, in women's MMA and in the women's bantamweight division. Irene Aldana is very dangerous off the back foot with her counter boxing, which could negate the forward pressure and aggression of Amanda the Lioness Nunes. And Aldana hits like a truck. She's one of the very few women in this division who has enough power to actually knock Amanda Nunes out, or even drop Amanda Nunes, or just inflict damage on Nunes that she's just not used to receiving in her fights at all. Like, stand-up wise, Aldana is very dangerous for Amanda Nunes. A pure striking match is too risky, and Amanda would really need to mix in her grappling to win this fight. However, Irene Aldana is improving in that area as well in terms of her ground game, takedown defense, and if she can nullify the wrestling, grappling of Nunes, I believe it's going to be a very long night, or a short night, for Amanda Nunes, and Aldana might just take the belt off her hands. And the level of danger that Aldana brings to this matchup against Amanda Nunes has gone up for me, and it is a 6 out of 10, 60% chance that she'll be the one to dethrone Amanda Nunes. And the runner-up is going to be Amanda Nunes' next opponent, and someone she's already fought twice before that she is 1-1 with, Juliana Pena. Even though Amanda Nunes dominantly won the second fight, let's not forget what happened in the first fight. Juliana Pena was able to finish Amanda Nunes, and in that second fight, Amanda had to be perfect for all 5 rounds to win that fight, and I still believe going forward she has to be perfect. She has to be on her best night, because when she wasn't on her best night, we saw how that fight played out. Juliana Pena, she's got the durability to deal with Amanda Nunes' power, to last with Amanda throughout the fight. She's got the cardio advantage over Amanda Nunes, and she's got some of the best volume output in the women's bantamweight division. She can fight at an insane pace that can tire Nunes out. And we saw that in the first fight when Nunes tried to push for that finish and she couldn't get it, and Pena was still there, still throwing. She was able to break Amanda Nunes. The overall toughness and scrappiness of Pena is problematic for Amanda Nunes, and she may not be the best striker in the division, but she still has an ability to hit Nunes and do damage when she does land on Amanda Nunes. And even on the ground, Juliana Pena is dangerous for Nunes. Yes, Nunes did dominate with her grappling, but Pena was threatening with submissions and almost got Amanda Nunes in an armbar. And going forward in this trilogy, Nunes best be on her perfect night, and she better not take Pena lightly, because if any of those two things happen, there's a very good chance that Nunes could find herself in the same position she was in that first fight. In all likelihood, Amanda Nunes should and will likely defeat Juliana Pena a second time, but you just never know. Anything can happen. Now, moving on into the men's flyweight division, and once again, the men's flyweight champion is Brandon the Assassin Baby Moreno. He got the best of 4 in his rivalry with Davison Figueiredo. He dominated him again, took his title back, his undisputed title back. But Brandon Moreno has another rival that he's got a date with on July 8th that he has not got the better of yet. And that man is Alejandro Pantoja. He's currently 2-0 over Brandon the Assassin Baby Moreno. He, without a doubt, is Moreno's hardest style matchup in the flyweight division. He's got such a pressure-heavy style, very good at creating sloppy and messy situations. He's a very effective brawler, and I think that style of his could kind of smother the technical boxing of Brandon Moreno, relentlessly coming forward with big shots, and he's also a high-level black belt in jiu-jitsu. And he's got a special ability to take the back of his opponents. He's got some of the best back takes in the men's flyweight division. Like, once he gets a hold of your back and gets that body triangle, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. And he submitted Brandon Moreno in their first fight back on Tough. But even if he can't get the rear naked choke right away, he can win rounds against Brandon Moreno just through back control alone and just beating him up from that position like he did in their second fight. Unlike Davison Figueiredo, he is in his prime. He's better than Davison at this point in their careers. He doesn't struggle to make the weight, so I think Brandon Moreno has his hands full in this trilogy, and the level of danger that Pantoja brings to this matchup is a 6 out of 10. Now, moving up to the men's bantamweight division, the men's bantamweight champion, Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling. He's managed to hold on to this title for 2.5 years. He's been able to silence the doubters. Ever since he won the belt the way he did, he was able to come back, win the rematch with Jan convincingly, dominated TJ Dillashaw. Like, Aljo is just slowly but surely eliminating his toughest competition, and it seems like, you know, his toughest matchups are behind him. Now the top 5 is sort of, you know, ruled by strikers, and Aljo is a grappler heavy fighter, so that kind of does favor him. However, there is one guy who's coming out of retirement and so happens to be Aljamain Sterling's next opponent, and that is Henry Triple C Cejudo. And if Cejudo is not affected by age or ring rust, I believe stylistically he is Aljo's hardest fight, and he may be the last hope at dethroning Aljamain Sterling. And what makes him difficult for Sterling to deal with is Triple C's background in wrestling. He is an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, which translates to him having extremely good takedown defense to nullify the offensive grappling, the takedowns of Aljamain Sterling, which would force Aljo to stand with Henry Cejudo. And even though the striking it is competitive, ultimately an extended striking match would favor Henry Cejudo because his stand-up is just a little bit more polished, a little bit more educated. He's better with his boxing. He's really good at closing the distance, and he's fast as well. And he does have power in his hands. He could definitely hurt Aljamain Sterling. And Henry Cejudo, of everyone that Aljamain Sterling has fought, I believe has the best fight IQ of all of Aljo's past opponents. Henry Cejudo is very smart, and he could simply win this fight through outsmarting Aljamain Sterling. I believe he's got a better gas tank than Aljamain Sterling as well. Aljo's cardio isn't that bad, and he is good at pacing himself, But, you know, Triple C with his pressure, you know, and forcing a high pace against Aljo, he could potentially get Aljamain to tire out, and he could potentially wear on him and drown him in the late rounds. Like, Triple C could make this a very long and uncomfortable night for Aljamain Sterling, and the level of danger that Triple C brings to this matchup. And I'm going to go big here. I'm going to say an 8 out of 10. Henry Cejudo just is that guy, and he's just that difficult of a style matchup for Aljamain Sterling. And if Sterling could add him to his resume and defend his belt against Triple C, then that will be very impressive, because he's got a tough fight on his hands, without a doubt. Now moving on to the featherweight division, the featherweight champion of the world is Alexander the Great Volkanovski, who's set to make his next title defense July 8th, UFC 290, against Yair Rodriguez El Pantera, who is still the nightmare matchup for Alexander Volkanovski. And it's simply because of the striking of Yair Rodriguez. Alexander Volkanovski, without a doubt, is the best overall striker, I believe, in the featherweight division, and he wins pretty much every stand-up fight that he's in. But I believe Yair has the striking to deal with Volkanovski, because he's tricky, he's unorthodox, he's unpredictable, and he's really dangerous with his kicks. He's got a kick-heavy style, which I believe you need when going up against Alexander Volkanovski. You can't just box with him. Volk throws a lot of leg kicks, but he's got to be careful, because Yair could time him over the top with the head kick. Yair's body kicks are dangerous as well. Maybe he could use body kicks to set up his high kicks. And Volkanovski, he's been caught with a head kick before. That's how he lost. That was his first pro MMA loss, was a head kick KO, and Holloway did drop him with the head kick. And if Yair can find that opening, it can be game over, lights out, and we could be seeing a new UFC featherweight champion. And I feel like he's one of the only guys in this division who can actually keep up with Alexander Volkanovski's speed, which is insane, because Volk usually has a speed advantage over everyone. I don't think he'll have a speed advantage over Yair Rodriguez. And the level of danger that Yair brings to the table, it doesn't go up by a lot. It's still a 5 out of 10, but I'm going to say a 5.5, 5.5 essentially. But I ultimately favor Volk to win, but Yair has a better chance than anyone currently to beat Alexander Volkanovski. Now, moving forward up into the lightweight division, the lightweight champion is still Islam Makhachev. He successfully defended his title last February against Alexander the Great Volkanovski. However, he looked very human in that fight with Volkanovski. It was a very close fight, and that fight was very eye-opening for a lot of fans and a lot of the fighters watching that fight. Volkanovski, he broke the Dagestani code. He cracked that code, he figured it out, and there's a lot of grapplers in this division. Like, this division is not just ruled by strikers. A lot of these guys can grapple as well, scramble, just like Alexander Volkanovski. And one of the few guys in this division that I do see challenging Islam Makhachev and being a potential threat to his throne is Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush is very well-rounded, dangerous everywhere, from his ground game to the striking. He can threaten Islam from bottom, but on the feet is where he poses the most danger. He's very awkward. He's powerful as well, but he's measured, he's composed. He doesn't overextend with anything, and he's very patient. Unlike Charles Oliveira, he's going to take his time. He's going to pick his shots. He's not going to fall into many traps of Islam Makhachev. And despite being effective from bottom, he's not inviting of the takedowns like Charles Oliveira. He'll actually use his takedown defense, which is very good, very effective. He can make it very hard for Islam to get into the ground. But Beneil Dariush also has very good scrambles as well. All around a difficult style matchup for Islam Makhachev. And because of that Alexander Volkanovski fight, what we saw last time out, and after some thinking I've done, The threat level has gone up by quite a bit for Beneil Dariush. That's kind of enhanced my confidence in his chances to beat Islam Makhachev. And now the level of danger that Beneil brings to this matchup is a 6 out of 10. And the runner-up is Arman Tsarukyan. Arman Tsarukyan made Islam Makhachev look human before Alexander Volkanovski did. That fight was one of Islam's hardest matchups. Islam Makhachev was unable to control Arman Tsarukyan on the ground. Arman was able to get up from a lot of Islam's takedowns. He was able to defend a lot of Islam Makhachev's takedowns, making it a very close fight. And Arman Tsarukyan has improved so much since that first fight. And Arman Tsarukyan is one of the best wrestlers, grapplers in the lightweight division outside of Islam Makhachev. And he can almost match the physical strength of Islam Makhachev. And I believe this rematch is inevitable. And I can very well see Arman Tsarukyan working his way up to the top to a title shot with Islam being the champion. And it will not surprise me if Arman Tsarukyan is in fact the one to end Islam's win streak and take his belt. Now, up to the welterweights division, the welterweight champion, and still Leon Rocky Edwards. He just won the trilogy with Kamaru Usman, getting the best of 3 and eliminating one of his nightmare matchups. Leon Edwards is very well-rounded, super talented fighter, great striker, but he can grapple well too. A good 5-round cardio. However, even with beating Usman twice, this top 5 is still very competitive, and there's still some guys in this division that I could see having a good chance at beating Leon Edwards. And one contender who stands out to me as one of the biggest threats to Leon Edwards to date is Shavkat Rakhmonov. If you're looking for a guy who can threaten Leon Edwards everywhere the fight goes, it's this guy, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Extremely well-rounded. Leon Edwards, like I said, is arguably the best striker in the welterweight division, but I think Shavkat is one of the very few guys who can actually strike with Leon Edwards and be successful, and he's got the wrestling threat on Leon Edwards. Even though Leon did show improved takedown defense in the Usman trilogy, with that stand-up of Shavkat, he can more effectively use his striking to set up his takedowns better than Kamaru Usman did. And he's solid on the ground. His jiu-jitsu is really good. He's got good submissions, unlike Kamaru Usman. And in the stand-up, not only is Shavkat really technical, but he has a lot of power as well. He can definitely hurt Leon Edwards on the feet. And he's got very effective kicks. The only weaknesses in Shavkat's game is his gas tank is a little bit questionable, and so is his defense. But I believe those are things that are going to improve on Shavkat's journey to the title. And the level of danger that Rakhmonov brings to this matchup against Leon Edwards is an 8 out of 10. Yes, I believe his chances are super high against Leon, and it is very likely that he might be the guy to end Leon Edwards' title reign. And the runner-up is Colby Chaos Covington. Even though, yes, Leon beat Usman twice and people see Colby as an inferior Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington is still very much a hard fight for Leon Edwards, not just because of his wrestling, although that is part of the problem, but it's his pace, it's his output, it's his constant pressure. Leon Edwards, he needs space to be technical, to set up his best strikes, and Colby Covington is not going to give him that space, not going to give him time to think or make reads. I believe Covington could freeze Leon Edwards with his output combined with the threat of the takedown, but also he chain wrestles better than Kamaru Usman. He's a lot more resilient with his takedowns, a lot more persistent, whereas Usman, he'll shoot and then he'll just give up. Colby Covington does not do that. He's a lot more relentless with his takedowns. And now the next division we move on to is the middleweights division, and once again, the middleweight champion is Israel, the last stylebender Adesanya. He regained his title finally getting one up on his arch rival, Alex Poatan Pereira, where he knocked him out in the second round, and now he owns middleweight once again. And Israel Adesanya, without a doubt, is the best middleweight in the division, and not many guys are on his level other than Pereira, but he is moving up to light heavyweight, so I cannot have him on this list. It would be very pointless. However, there's one guy who has fought in middleweight before and now is coming back, and he is Khamzat Chimaev. And he's one of the best grapplers, wrestlers in MMA, dominant with that style that he brings to the table. And I believe he could be a very difficult style matchup for Israel Adesanya and a very dangerous matchup for Israel Adesanya. Chimaev is very physically strong, which helps him a lot in the grappling situations. His takedowns are very hard to stop. And Israel Adesanya, one thing that he does that does kind of worry me is he uses the cage to defend takedowns, whereas Chimaev is most effective with his takedowns against the cage, and Israel Adesanya sometimes does give up his back to get back to his feet, and you don't want to do that against Khamzat Chimaev because he can find that back and he can take that neck and it could be game over. And if Chimaev could successfully crack the top 5 of this division and get a title shot against Israel Adesanya, I like his chances against the last stylebender, and the level of danger that Chimaev brings to the table is a 7 out of 10. Now, moving up to the light heavyweight division, the light heavyweight champion, the new light heavyweight champion is Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill. One of the best strikers in the light heavyweight division, one of the most dangerous strikers as well. He's got one-shot knockout power. I mean, he can knock out anybody he goes up against. Like, he's a dangerous fight for anybody in this division in a striking match. However, this top 5 is super competitive, and there's a lot of guys who I believe have a good chance at taking out Jamahal Hill. And one of them being his next opponent, Yuri Prochazka, an absolute madman. Yuri matches the height of Jamahal Hill, 6'4", same length, very similar in length at least. Yuri also has power, speed. Arguably, he's got the speed advantage over Jamahal Hill. Very tricky, unorthodox combinations, and overall unorthodox striking, high output, relentless pressure. All of that combined, I believe, could pose problems to the champion, Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill. And the level of danger that Prochazka brings to the table is a 5.8 out of 10. And the runner-up is Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz, I mean, he's old, but the guy can still compete with these young dudes, very similar to Glover Teixeira when he was competing. But age is part of the reason why I do rank him behind Yuri, because of that, his prime years could soon be behind him. But make no mistake about it, Jan is still a very capable threat, really difficult to deal with on the feet, composed, measured, boxing, good counter puncher, and he's got that legendary Polish power and very unpredictable timing. He's got good kicks as well, to the legs, to the body. And I say the best way to beat this guy is to grapple him, but Jamahal Hill does not really use grappling offensively, and just getting in a pure stand-up battle with Jan is very risky. And the third runner-up is Magomed Ankalaev, one of Dagestan's very best. He is well-rounded, one of the most complete fighters in the light heavyweight division. Really elite stand-up, fast, sharp hands, really good, dangerous kicks as well. And he's got very, very good, solid wrestling. He doesn't use it very often, but when he does, I mean, his takedowns are very strong. He's got good control, good ground and pound. I mean, he's definitely a tough guy to deal with for anybody in the light heavyweight division. And I got a surprise runner-up, a fourth runner-up, a new addition to the light heavyweight division, former middleweight champion and Glory's very best, Alex Poatan Pereira. Elite level kickboxer, one of the best strikers in the UFC, lethal hands, particularly that left hook. He's got the touch of death, lethal kicks, dangerous leg kicks, and Jamahal Hill doesn't check leg kicks, so those could definitely be a problem. Hill is not as slick with his defense as Israel Adesanya, so he might be more open to getting caught, and he does not offensively wrestle, which he might want to do against a high-level dangerous striker like Alex Pereira, because just getting in a striking match could be a little bit too risky. And with Pereira moving up, he might have even more power than he did in the middleweight division, which makes it very dangerous for the champion Jamahal Hill. And Pereira might have a good chance of getting that second belt. And now we move on into the final weight class, which is the heavyweights division. And your new heavyweight champion is Johnny Bones Jones, who won the heavyweight title last month, submitting Ciryl Gane in the first round. Jon Jones, pound for pound, is the best fighter on planet Earth. And now he went from being the light heavyweight champion to now the heavyweight champion, and he's still yet to be defeated. However, the one guy I can see being a legitimate threat to the crown of Jon Bones Jones is Sergey Pavlovich. He's got a good win streak going right now, coming off a huge first round stoppage win over Curtis Razor Blades. Sergey Pavlovich is one of the deadliest strikers in the heavyweight division. Very fast, powerful hands, and very good boxer with deadly combinations. And once he puts his foot on the gas, once he gets going, he becomes very hard to stop. And he never takes a step back. He's always in your face, always going forward, always the aggressor. And one big problem for Jon Jones with Sergey Pavlovich is Sergey literally matches the reach of Jon Jones at 84 inches. This is the first time Bones will not be able to use his reach to his advantage, so he'll have a very hard time evading the big, powerful shots of Sergey Pavlovich. And Sergey's takedown defense is something that's massively improved since the Overeem fight, so Jon would have a much harder time taking down Sergey than he did Ciryl Gane. Jon would have to be extremely perfect in this fight, and he cannot let Sergey get going, because Sergey does have potential to light him up and overwhelm him. This is a very dangerous fight for Jon Bones Jones, and the level of danger that Pavlovich brings to this matchup is a 6.2 out of 10. And the longer Jon Jones sticks around, Sergey is only going to get better, and Jon is only going to get older, and no one stays undefeated forever. And the second runner-up is Jon Jones's next opponent, Stipe Miocic. Stipe's been out for the last 2.5 years, and he's in his early 40s, so he's arguably not in his prime anymore, and he's coming off a bad knockout loss to Francis Ngannou. But assuming Miocic is not affected by rust or age, Stipe at his absolute best is a very tough matchup for Jon Bones Jones. He's the same height as Jon Jones. He's got the boxing advantage over Jon Jones. We know boxing is something that Jon has struggled with all throughout his career. Stipe's got good power, good combinations, and he's accurate with his hands. He's got good effective pressure, and stemming from his wrestling background, that would make him very hard for Jon Jones to just take him down and work his ground game like he was able to do to Ciryl Gane. I do believe that this fight will be a lot longer and drawn out and tougher than the Gane fight. Ultimately, I do favor Jon Jones, but Stipe's chances are very underrated. And hopefully Stipe kills the narrative that he's washed up, so we can see a good fight and a good challenge for Jon Bones Jones. However, that's a wrap for my nightmare matchup for Champs in Every Division 2023 edition. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one.